South Africa is not really renowned for its laws on intellectual property, but earlier on, Ashlea Evans spoke to Ambassador Konji Sebati. She's director at the Department of Traditional Knowledge and Global Challenges at the World Intellectual Property Organization, with its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland.
I don't think it's entirely true that South Africa is not protecting intellectual property. We've had intellectual property laws for a long time. Yes, indeed, it evolves. On the international front, there's a lot that's happening within the organization I work for, at the World Intellectual Property Organization, on traditional knowledge, for instance. There's a process at the moment, the Intergovernmental Committee with member states that's looking at the protection, hopefully to come up with an international legal instrument that will protect traditional knowledge. So that process is going on. But South Africa does have intellectual property rights, and it exercises them very, very well. But yes, as I said, it's evolving, things evolve, and the bill right now has to be looked at and see how it can be improved.
And what should we be implementing to ensure that we are vigilant enough about intellectual property?
Well, we have to implement, we have to create an enabling environment for intellectual property. We've got to assure investors, we have to ensure entrepreneurs, innovators, that their discoveries, their inventions will be protected. And once people know that the inventions, their discoveries, their patents will be protected, they will tend to come to the country. I'm talking about foreign direct investment. That will encourage them to come. And local entrepreneurs, we do have a lot of innovators. We know we have innovation hubs here. If they know that what they invent will be protected by the laws of the country, then I think that will encourage more investments.
Now, you say that intellectual property rights will encourage investors, but how exactly does it promote economic growth and trade?
Right. I mean, if you're going to invent something and it's not protected, and you cannot generate income out of your invention because you invest in an invention in the process of getting to an invention. There's a discovery and an invention. And there's a saying that if you know anything that an invention that doesn't leave the laboratory is not an innovation, and therefore it doesn't translate to economic benefits for the country. So it's a continuum. There's investment. There's invention, and then there's patenting, protecting intellectual property rights, and after that you are able to commercialize it. Or you should be able to commercialize it, because not just locally, but you have other maybe bigger companies or other companies internationally or even locally that then tap into your inventions to also maybe come up with some new inventions based on that. Remember that the intellectual property system is actually an open system. It's supposed to disclose. So it's not really a secret, because you've got to disclose. You've got to disclose that this is new, this is novel, and why should it be patented. And from that, others can copy, if you may. I'll use that word, copy. Of course, with discussions with you and royalties, and you make money from that. You can also make money from that, that's commercializing your intellectual property. But it's also, if you were to invent this table and protect it, and it's not sellable, there is no point. So that's why it's encouraged that innovations should end up with commercialization. Otherwise, then there is no point.
Understandably.
And that's where, in fact, South Africa, that's the part that's lacking, where I think you asked the question earlier about what is that we also don't, maybe are not there yet. We have inventions, we have good laws. We've just not been able to commercialize our inventions. We come up with excellent innovations, but somehow there is a gap of taking them to scale, where we can actually commercialize and make money. And that's why it's very important that the government should encourage or assist inventors and innovators to commercialize their product.
And that gap that you're talking about, what exactly is it? Is it a gap of investors?
It is a gap, yes. It's investors. Obviously, we should be able, the market should be, there should be a market for this invention, right? So people from abroad or other multinational companies should find something in that invention that encourage them to buy or buy rights and expand on it. So you'll forever be receiving royalties from your invention. So yes, you do need the private sector. Small to medium-sized companies can only do so much, but you need the bigger multinationals sometimes to then, you know, carry over. But you'll benefit from that because you're just not going to give it to them for free. So there'll be royalties and expand on your idea. And
lastly, on a different note, during the South African World Cup, we saw a major problem with counterfeit goods being produced. Now, is it worth spending that money to prevent the production of counterfeit goods when people that perhaps didn't have a job beforehand, didn't have an income beforehand, are receiving that now?
It is an interesting debate, and yes, and I understand that people will buy counterfeit goods or sell counterfeit goods simply to sell, to make money, to feed themselves. Mostly it's not because of a deliberate abrogation of people's intellectual property. It's an economic thing. However, if I believe that if the country, the government, or the intellectual property officers educate people about the value of patents, I think people will begin to understand that it is not right to steal, if you may, somebody's invention and ideas, copy them, and sell for a quarter of the price. Because if an inventor makes money from their invention, invariably they will put the money back into invention. It doesn't just end, you know, discover this whatever it is, this table, and then you end here. The more money you generate from the invention of this table, the more ideas you'll have about maybe a flatter table, a square table. So money has to generate for you to continue to invent.